Hi there everyone! So today I thought that I'd do a vlog for you just for something a little bit different, and lately on YouTube there's been this tag going around called the 90s kid tag, and I thought that that might be fun to run through for a little vlog. I should point out before I start that I was actually born in 1986, so while I'm not technically a 90s kid, you know, the first little part of my life, the last little bit of the 80s, I was just, you know, being a baby and being a toddler. And because I basically spent my childhood and the early part of my teens in the 90s, I do identify a lot more with 90s culture. So I think it's still appropriate for me to do this tag. So the first question in this tag is, what is your favourite TV show from the 90s? And this is a really easy question for me. Without a doubt, my favourite 90s TV show is Friends, and that also happens to be my favourite TV show of all time. But yeah, without a doubt, Friends. That's an easy question for me. What was your favourite toy from the 90s? This one is harder because I had a lot of 90s toys. I think probably the two things that stand out the most in my mind were Polly Pockets, which was something that came out in Australia. I don't know if they were available in other parts of the world. And they were basically like a compact that was kind of like a clamshell, and it opened up and there were little people inside, like each one was a little play set, and the inside would be shaped like a house or a shop, or some of them, I had one that was like a little fairy garden, and they were really cute little play sets. The other thing that I loved was troll dolls, which, you know, the little dolls with the tall, colourful hair. I had quite a few of those. And I remember that there was also a series that came out that were called Treasure Trolls. And again, I don't know if these were just an Aussie thing or whether they were available everywhere, but it was like a little troll doll, and it came with a charm bracelet, and then there was a little packet that with powder, and you threw it into a bowl of water and it dissolved, and there was a charm inside it, and you were supposed to collect all of the charms. I really, really loved those. Okay, so the next question is, what was your favorite TV commercial? This is hard. Like, I find it really hard to remember TV commercials. There are two that stick in my mind. The first one actually was shown in Australia, but I think I remember watching it on a video or a documentary. When we were kids, my brother was obsessed with Michael Jordan, and so he would collect, you know, all kinds of videos. He would tape any TV appearance that Michael Jordan was on, and there was this ad that Michael Jordan and Larry Bird did. And for the life of me, I can't remember if the ad was for Nike or whether the ad was for McDonald's, or it could have been for something else entirely. But it was like Michael Jordan and Larry Bird competing, and like one of them would make a shot and the other one would try to make the same shot, and it just got more and more ridiculous. So that commercial I always really liked. There was also another one that was shown in Victoria, where I live, that was about people becoming foster families, trying to encourage people to, you know, adopt foster kids, or, you know, let foster kids come and live in their home. And the ads like, oh, you know, what kind of people can be foster parents? And they're rattling off, you know, all the different kinds of people, you know, people who have kids, people who don't have kids, people who are married, people who live by themselves, like all these sort of qualities that you would expect to be listed in, you know, when you're thinking about what kind of people could be a foster person. And at the end of the ad, there was just one little kid that screams out, "People who like ice cream!" And that just has always has stuck with me. And even one of my best friends still will spout off that line regularly, and no one knows what we're on about. The next thing in the 90s kid tag is, what was your favourite movie from the 90s? This is such a hard question for me because I love so many movies from the 90s. Like, I could just sit here and rattle off a list of 30 or more films. But I've whittled it down to 3, and this was really hard to do. So the first of my favorite movies from the 90s would be Empire Records, which I love. The second is Clueless, because I grew up with that film. I feel as though that film had a huge impact on me and the way that I dressed, the way that I spoke. Yeah, it was a really big film for me, and I still love it now. The third film is one that I've loved since I was a little kid, and I've looked everywhere for it on DVD and I haven't been able to find it. It's a film called Heavyweights, and it was made by the same people who did the Mighty Ducks series of films. And it was about this little boy named Jerry, and he goes to this fat camp, like weight reduction camp. And, you know, he doesn't want to go. And once he gets there and he's talking to all the other kids on the bus on the way to fat camp, he realizes that the camp, the people who run the camp are really, really nice, and it's not so much about the kids losing weight. They're more concerned about them making friends and building up their self-esteem and that sort of thing. And he realizes that, you know, it might be a really cool place to go for summer. And then when they arrive, the camp has been purchased by this like crazy fitness nut who is played by Ben Stiller. And he has all of these East German you know, personal trainers and chefs and stuff, and they set to like break down all of the kids, their self-esteem, and you know, stop them from becoming friends with one another and make them feel really crappy about themselves and try to get them all to lose weight. And the kids all band together and overthrow the camp counselors basically and take back the camp. But my favorite scene from that film, there's a scene where the camp owner throws a dance for the boys with the girls' camp that is across the lake. And the girls, the aim of it basically is to humiliate the young boys who are overweight into losing weight, because they figure if they put them in a room with girls and the girls don't want to dance with them, it'll make them feel bad about themselves. And the girls, it doesn't go according to plan, because the girls realize, you know, how much fun the guys are and how funny they are, and they're all dancing together and having fun. But there's this one camp counselor called Lars, who's like this East German camp counselor, and he does the best dance sequence to Love Machine and Dancing on a Saturday Night. And I can't hear those songs without seeing Lars dancing along to it. Okay, the next question in the 90s Kid Tag is, what was your favourite collectible? Oh, I'm going to say Tarzos, which were like these little round discs with a picture on them that came in like chip packets. And the ones in particular that I collected were the Looney Tunes series. I loved those. Okay, the next question is, what was your favourite game console? I'm going to go with a late 90s console, which was the Nintendo 64. And the reason I say this is because some of my fondest memories of my childhood were playing the Nintendo 64 Mario Kart with my brother and our friends. We would just play that for hours, and yeah, I love that. And I loved a lot of the other games on that console as well. Okay, the next question is, what was your favourite music artist? For me, without a doubt, it's Hanson. I was pretty well obsessed with Hanson from the time I was 11 till I was about 13, which is when they were at their height of their popularity. Surprisingly, I actually still have all of my Hanson CDs, all of my scrapbooks of the cuttings and stuff that I had, and I every now and then will throw one of the CDs on. I actually do still quite like their music. The other band that I loved back in the 90s, and I still like now, is Aqua. Like, they're just, you can't be sad while you're listening to Aqua. They're just so bubbly and infectious. I love it. Two other bands that I'm going to say as well that are from the 90s. I wasn't really into them in the 90s because they weren't really my thing, when I was like 10, 11, when I was first getting into music. But three actually, not just two, three, were Nirvana, the Cranberries, and Alanis Morissette, all three artists that I absolutely adore their music. And actually, fun fact, Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill is the first album I ever owned on CD. I got that for Christmas when I was 10 years old. So the next question is, what was your favourite candy from the 90s? I'm going to say these Willy Wonka's gobstoppers that you could buy at the corner shop, and they were like, you know, little hard gobstoppers that you sucked on and they turned different colours and then finally disappeared. The next one is, what was your favourite game? This is hard. I don't know if they mean video game or if they mean like board game, because a lot of the board games I had when I was a kid weren't strictly from the 90s, like they were much older. So I'm going to say a video game, which is Mario Kart for the Nintendo 64. Again, going back to my favorite gaming console. There was also a game that I loved for the computer called Lenny's Music Tunes that was like a PC game, and it was about a penguin in his apartment, and it was basically just Lenny the penguin sitting in his apartment, and you could click on different things and they would move and do things, and there were different activities like if you clicked on there was a house of cards, and if you clicked on the house of cards it took you to like a memory matching game, and there was like a tic-tac-toe game and all sorts of things. I loved that game, keeping in mind that I was about 6 or 7 at this stage. The final question is, what was your favourite book from the 90s? Again, easy for me to answer, the Babysitter's Club books. I had a massive collection of Babysitter's Club books, most of which were hand-me-downs from my older cousins, but I built on that collection, and a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I gave them to the kids that live next door to my mum and dad, and their girls were just getting into them, and I gave them my collection of, I had at least 100. I don't think I'd be exaggerating to say 100. And I kind of feel bad that I gave them away because I really loved those books, and every now and then I think to myself, I'd really love to flick back through them. I don't have them anymore, so I can't. Never mind though. You still see them at garage sales and like market stalls and secondhand bookstores, and every now and then I do snap one up, but I usually wind up giving it away again because, yeah, that collection just was enormous. What are you going to do? Anyway, that's the end of my 90s kid vlog. If you do your own version of the 90s kid tag, I would love to see it. Please send me a link to it, and I hope you are having an awesome day. I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.